just FYI. And I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. All right. Move some videos around here. There we go. So welcome and thank you for attending this webinar on launching a renovation program as a niche. If you can't hear me, please let me know. Hopefully the audio is coming through all right and everybody can see my screen okay. If you can't, please do let me know. So we have a lot to cover and I'll try my best to keep it to 45 minutes with time for questions throughout. My name is Jana Jeffrey. Some of you know me from Teach at the Beach, or you've worked with me on a real estate deal or two, or you know me from Facebook, or we've somehow connected in the past. If not, welcome. It's nice to meet you. Feel free to reach out to me at any point on Facebook or anywhere if you have any questions. I live in the Kansas City area with my husband, 4 kids, 4 dogs. Thankfully, 3 of our kids are grown and out of the house. Our youngest is 13, so we're getting a lot closer to being empty nesters, which I'm really looking forward to. I've been in the real estate industry for over 20 years, the last 4 as a licensed realtor and the last year as a broker. I own my own boutique brokerage and I coach real estate agents through my brokerage and across the US. I also coach and consult when needed with software companies and entrepreneurs in various industries. So over 25 years in marketing and software development and still consult from time to time with partners. I don't know if you've read my bio or anything about me in the past, but I actually developed about 10 years ago, 11, 12 years ago, a product that I ended up selling to Google, and that product became Google+. So I really enjoy software. I really enjoy digging into things. I really enjoy trying to find ways to make things a lot easier for people. I also flip my own homes. I own a couple of short-term rentals. And I took my passion for software and marketing and married it with my real estate business. It's definitely helped create a competitive advantage in my business and for the agents at my brokerage. I love helping clients find and evaluate investment properties and helping them see their potential in real estate. I like helping agents recognize opportunities in their own businesses that they may not see, and I really like to solve problems. So that's actually how I discovered this niche. We'll get into that soon, but first let's go through what we're going to be talking about this weekend. So today and tomorrow from 6 to 7 p.m. Central Time, and then Sunday for brokers, same time. I'll say it up front, there's nothing worse than to be talked at. So if you have any questions at any point, please feel free to ask them anytime. So here's what we're going to cover. Today is day 1, so we're going to talk about why institute a renovation program. I'm going to walk you through one of my case studies. It's actually, just check and make sure everybody's in here. Yeah, okay. We're actually going to talk through one of my case studies, which is Park Avenue. I'm going to walk through how to estimate renovations, managing the process from beginning to end, and then protecting yourself. And by that, I mean agreements and things that you need to be aware of as you go through this process. Tomorrow, we'll talk about another case study on 113th Street. We'll talk about finding contractors and good contractors. We'll talk about how to fund this renovation program. There's several different ways to do it. We'll talk about how to get paid, which is really important. And there's some definite challenges there, some interesting tidbits that I've definitely learned that hopefully you'll benefit from. How to lead generate. And then I'll walk you through the last case study, which is in Eastern Court. It's a property that we did a very large renovation on. So I'm happy to walk you through that one too and talk about all the fun stuff that occurred there. Lots of challenges, lots of learning opportunities. And then frankly, building a pipeline in this niche, it's relatively easy. We have 10 with a possibility of 11, I believe, projects in the works right now in various different stages. So there's definitely a way to build a pretty solid pipeline through this program. And then day 3 is for brokers only. It's really about helping your agents and limiting your liability, also how to deploy and manage this kind of a program at a brokerage level. creating your own fund, approving projects, and then how to attract and retain agents through this program as well. So why should you consider adding a renovation program as a niche in your business? It's a way to help clients drive up the market value of their homes, revitalize neighborhoods, grow stronger bonds with clients, be the solution, not just the person that points out the issues. And in the past, I offered this service to friends and family in the process of selling their homes. But frankly, in the early months of 2020, demand was so great for listings, even in the midst of a pandemic, because interest rates have been so low for so long. It was driving demand for homes. And we had, at that time, here in the Kansas City market, less than a month and a half of inventory. There just weren't enough homes on the market. And the ones that were around longer than like 48 hours were kind of crappy. So we work hard for our clients. We want them to succeed. We needed more houses on the market. So I decided I was going to create my own pipeline of nice, beautiful listings. I'd been following a couple of agents doing this in other markets. And after speaking with them, doing some of my own research, I decided to open up my renovation services to the public, and it's been incredibly effective, which is why I wanted to share it. Lots of folks have asked me tons of questions, and this is kind of like the easiest way to get all that information out, be able to share it with you, answer your questions here. And then we have a mastermind group as well. So we add you to the mastermind group if you're not already there, and that will help further your knowledge sharing and learn from everyone, not just me. I'm a big believer that when we collaborate, all ships rise. So this program helps sellers get the most out of the sale of their home by removing their biggest obstacle, which typically is money, followed quickly by vision, time, and resources. This program addresses all these things and quite a bit more. One of my favorite quotes: this program requires the giving of your time, energy, and vision to a home, to a client, to a process. And in the end, we receive not only the cold hard cash for our effort, but the fact that we transformed not only a home, but a seller's situation. We really did add value. And in the process, we gained trust, respect, and ideally, more cold hard cash. So I wanted to start with taking you through one of my renovation program projects. This home was a huge transformation. We pulled it out of the 70s and turned it into a hip, swanky, functional, and comfy home. We started this one in July of this year, and keep in mind, still in the midst of a pandemic, and basically everyone is working from home. We had a lot of process challenges with this one, given that our homeowners couldn't really leave most of the time. Make sure we got everybody in. Hey, Teresa. Pause here really quick. We got Teresa in. There you are. Sorry about that. Hey, girl.
That's okay.
So we're actually walking through one of the case studies right now. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So we started, like I said, when we started this one in July, it was in the middle of the pandemic. Everyone was really working from home. We had a lot of process challenges given that the homeowners couldn't really leave most of the time. And perhaps because of that, we had very active homeowners involved in the renovation. They really wanted to dig in and help, which was cool, but also presented some unique challenges, mainly that they didn't like some of the things I proposed until I convinced them to let me do it anyway, and promised if they still hated it, I'd change it. And they didn't hate one thing. So there you go. This is what the house looked like before we got started. These are actually vacant photos from when they bought the house a few years earlier, but they literally hadn't done anything to it yet. And they're a really good way to just show how much was done. So on the exterior, curb appeal, 0. Interior had old laminate floorings, was cut off from the living spaces, dated kitchen, just ugly, right? There's not much there. Not to mention the carpeting in the bedrooms were disgusting. The light fixtures throughout the home were sad. And I say that because they were all kind of like bending down. You've seen old fans, the blades just sort of bend down. They were actually doing that. The bathroom, here, I'll put it over here. The bathroom was still brown. There was just no character, no charm. So there was a ton of opportunity to make it gorgeous. And I wanted to walk you through the scenario. So if you saw this was kind of a slide that I'd posted, I think it was yesterday. And I think this really illustrates sort of the case for doing a renovation on this property. This is a 4-bedroom house with a non-conforming additional bedroom in the basement, 2 bathrooms, a little more than 1,900 square feet, and it was a 1/4-acre lot. So homes within a mile radius around the property were primarily priced between 100 and 200K. And we really needed to be in that sweet spot between 150 and 200 to get the best value. She owed 88K on it, but unfortunately in its present state, it was only going to bring in about 95K. Like that's really kind of the max we could sell it at. And even then we'd be cutting a deal with an investor for less, most likely. At that price, she'd have to bring $2,200 to the table. In order to close at that price, just to walk away from it, she'd have to bring $2,200 to the table. So after walking through the house, I identified a couple of key areas that needed to be addressed. Things like curb appeal, the closed offness of the living space, flooring and interior paint, kitchen in the living room, and the main floor bath. We were going to leave the basement family room and the 1-bedroom plus 1 non-conforming bedroom down there alone for the most part, just a coat of paint, frankly. The renovations were estimated to cost $27,000, but we were able to bring them down to $25,000. We got way better deals, cheaper materials, things like that. We were able to cut a few things out that weren't really necessary once we dug into them. My vision was going to bring us a max after repair value of 185K. That was my plan. I was like, if we could just get 185 out of this house, she'll be golden. Turns out we were able to pull 189.5, which was by far the highest in this neighborhood for, I believe, it was a 1.5 mile radius around the property. And that was with an FHA appraisal, no less. So pretty awesome. Her net profit after commission, title fees, renovation expenses, loan payoff, taxes, all of it was $63,500. That was the best check to see someone get. And her face just lit up. It was really, really cool. She went from having to bring $2,200 to the table just to walk away from her property to making more than $63,000 on the sale. And how did we do all that for $25,000? I'm going to show you our budget. Does anybody have any questions right now? Everybody's muted, so if you do, please feel free to take yourself off mute. No? Okay. So when we're talking about here's the as-is situation, here's where you would be if you sold today. Obviously, we know she would have had to come to the table with $2,200. For an extra 30 to 60 days, this is the conversation we were having. If the money wasn't enough, this was an excellent conversation to have too. Like for an extra 30 to 60 days, you're going to make between $1,000 and $2,100 a day per extra day by just, waiting for the process. So would it be worth it to wait an extra 30 to 60 days to make substantially more money in the end? And this is the conversation you need to have, because sometimes the needs of your vision are going to be way more than they want to bite off. And in some cases, they're willing to forego the money to just get out of it. I always encourage the extra dollars per day the seller will be making by just waiting those extra days. Ultimately, it's their choice. But frankly, I'd like to be able to show them what it's going to look like if you walk away today and what it would mean if you waited an extra 30 days, 30 to 60 days. And thankfully on this particular project, my client could definitely wait, and especially to make that kind of money. So here's the budget. I kind of broken it down into key areas: flooring, interior paint, the kitchen and the living room, the bathroom, and the exterior. So flooring in the house was all dated, old, laminate wood flooring that had been there forever, wood looking flooring that had been there forever. So we decided to put LVP in the living room, the kitchen, and the hallways on the main floor. We did carpets in the bedrooms and tile in the bathroom. We did ceramic tile in the bathroom. And we didn't really do anything, like I said, with the basement level. It was a walkout basement, and there's a nice family room and a fireplace down there as well. It just really wasn't worth it to spend the money down there. So we really focused on just making the interior, exterior of the main floor just shine and was really polished. So interior paint, literally every freaking surface of the whole house was painted. There was not one room that was left untouched. Even the hallways got painted, like the stairwells downstairs and whatnot too. In the kitchen and the living room, we actually painted the existing cabinets. I'm going to show you befores and afters right after this, so you'll kind of see the difference between them. But we painted the existing cabinets with, I don't know if you've heard of this product. It's called Rust-Oleum Cabinet Transformations. It's actually a really, really great product. It's like an $80 kit, but you can actually do it. It's a 3-step process, and you can do it at home. And it's not hard. It's just a little time consuming, but it's not too difficult. But that you can use your existing cabinets, and it works with sort of the, I'm going to use the term junkier cabinets, as well as the, higher level cabinetry as well. It's not a super soaking type paint, so you're not going to ruin cabinets by using it, which was really cool. We also added a breakfast bar cabinet with backsplash and open shelving. We did a subway tiled backsplash around the entire kitchen. So even that open area, as well as, above the stove and the sink and whatnot. She had laminate countertops before, but we replaced them with new laminate countertops. There really wasn't any reason to go to like a granite or a natural stone, mainly because the area that we were renovating in, that really wasn't a popular upgrade, which is strange to me, but most people just didn't spend the money there. So we weren't really going to over renovate and spend that kind of money there as well. Just make sure everybody's in. Yep. Okay. So just to recap on flooring, we actually, and these are actual numbers. So we ended up spending $4,750 throughout. So it was new padding, new carpet, tile, and LVP. We spent about $2,700 on interior paint. I'm a big proponent of Sherwin-Williams paint. It lasts the longest by far. It's a little bit more expensive than going with a Valspar or something like that you can get at Home Depot or Lowe's, but it's well worth it. It takes one coat versus like a 2 to 3 coats with a Valspar. In the kitchen and living room, between the cabinets, the laminate countertops, we did a butcher block island with the new cabinet, new light fixtures, and a fan. We had $6,800. The bathroom. So the way that the house is set up, it's 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, kitchen and living on the main floor. And that 1 bathroom is the bathroom. And there's 1 other bathroom in the basement, but no one ever goes down there. So the master bathroom, it's like the bathroom. So it really needed to kind of pop and have, some sizzle to it. We had to replace a portion of the ceiling in the bathroom because there was an old roof leak that had kind of torn through the drywall. We had to do a new vanity and mirror and faucet. Some plumbing work had to be done. We added some open shelving, a new toilet, refinished shower and tub, and then we added new shower hardware and knobs. So we did all of that for $1,100. And those were retail purchases too. So the vanity, the mirror, the faucet, the toilet, and the hardware was all retail purchases at Lowe's. And then the exterior, we painted the entire exterior. So all the siding, fascia, and soffits, including the fireplace stack. We had to do some repairs to the fireplace stack. We had to erect a new front porch, a new deck, remove dilapidated shed. We did some brick repair that you'll see here in a second too, and some landscaping, and then lighting and address hardware. So bulk of that was spent on the exterior, just trying to upgrade that curb appeal. And here is that before. So this is the before picture, and it's pretty ugly. There's, boring front porch, non-compliant, frankly, with safety standards. There's no railings, nothing to grab onto. These shrub bushes were basically dead. They're boring. House numbers were really old window space. So this is where the bathroom is. There used to be a window there, but it was taken out and this funky thing was done to it. So here's the transformation. Here's the front. So we ended up going with black trim. This is one of those things that she was like, I don't want you to paint my house black and gray. Not a dark gray. I was like, trust me, it's going to look great with the brick and with the natural wood. It's going to look fantastic. Just let me try it. And if you hate it, then I'll change it. But let's just see what it looks like. And she was kind of irritated with me, but she was like, fine. All right, fine. I mean, it's your money. I was like, okay. So the main color, this gray, is actually peppercorn from Sherwin-Williams. We added the front porch with railings. We changed out this light fixture. I kind of made a blow up over here in the house numbers. We got rid of the ugly shrub beds and graded the dirt. And I added a hanging plant in front of the old window to kind of help bring out the natural wood in the deck and add some color. Okay, so here's the inside. So this was before. Ugly, old flooring, weird wall sconces, an older fan, not open at all. Flooring was just terrible. Cabinetry was kind of old and dated. And then this is what we did to it. So we removed the wall. We changed the flooring. It's still a laminate flooring, but it's vinyl plank. So it's actually very durable, great for a family house. You know, can take a lot of wear and tear. We painted all the walls. We painted all the trim. We moved the fan and bought a brand new fan. It's actually quite a bit bigger. We added a light fixture to the living space. And this is all the staging. So we hired a stager to actually do, once we got all the renovation done, cleaning and all of that, we brought in a stager and kind of talked to her about what we wanted to do. And she came in and just staged it perfectly.
Was the staging included in your budget in the
It
25?
was. Yes. Yeah. And we actually do it a couple different ways. So we've got where we can add it on and they can pay the stager directly. They can add it to our docket, basically our project list, and we'll pay for it. Or we can, you know, set up some kind of arrangement where we, you know, do an exchange for that. So in this case, it was actually included. It was $1,200 for 2.5 months of staging. And she basically staged the living room, the kitchen, master bedroom, bathroom, and the deck outside. So I'll see those here in a second too. So here's the kitchen, old dishwasher, old brown laminate countertops, this sad fan. Here, I'll come over here. Sad fan, nothing over here. It was just kind of this weird space, this tiny little space for dining. It wasn't really working. So we opened it up. She actually got this breakfast bar cabinetry. We got that actually at a restore, so a Habitat for Humanity restore, which is kind of like a Goodwill type of a deal. We got that there. These are laminate countertops that we purchased from Menards. Butcher Block Island was special ordered. It was only $75, if you could believe it. We found an excellent deal. Then we did subway tile backsplash, the open shelving. We repainted the top cabinets white and the bottom cabinets blue. I kind of fell in love with this blue color, and it looks a lot brighter here than it actually is. It's a little bit darker, but it's gorgeous, and it just, I don't know, it just sets off the whole kitchen. I dig it. We ended up getting a new stove and dishwasher. And what else? Yeah, that was it. So it's quite a bit different. So here's the bathroom. So this is the bathroom that everyone used. And it really was, everything's brown, which, you know, not what you want to see in a bathroom necessarily. So we took and we completely replaced the flooring, the ceramic tile flooring. You can't see it in this picture, but we actually had the surround. We didn't take it out. We had the surround and the tub repainted. So it actually was white. We did a new vanity, new toilet, new mirror, new faucet, new light fixtures. Come over here. And then this open shelving as well. And then I think, yeah, this is the ceiling where we had the issue with the leak in the roof too. So the whole new ceiling up there as well. New paint, new trim, the whole 9 yards. So here's the master bedroom. It's kind of blah. There's not really anything there, just nothing fancy. It's just regular. I think it was a 15 by 12 master bedroom. 2 windows with a little bitty closet. It just needed some pep, frankly. So we repainted, put in new carpet, put in a new fan. We put new doors actually on this closet over here. So we're on this side. And that's all we had to do in here. And it looked quite a bit better. Of course, staging always helps with that too. So kind of the timeline from the first meeting to closing day was roughly 90 days. So I've broken out the stages here, and I try to follow this for them all as closely as possible. So essentially between meeting and estimation is about 21 days. We take about 3 weeks to do all of that. We meet the prospective client, we walk through the house, we take photos, we make a list of things to do. We talk about the process, we get some ideas together, we run those ideas by the contractors for estimates. Sometimes they need to go visit the house to get a good feel for the space. And then I get my numbers together and decide how to position it to the homeowner. We meet with the homeowner, review the agreement, which I'll show you later, talk about this process, we get the listing document signed, and then we actually order that dumpster pretty quickly, demo what needs to be demoed, and all of that happens within about 7 days. Then we go into our renovation process, which is, all of the stuff, right? And we've got a project plan lined up so that, our flooring guys, for instance, are the guys that come in last. They're the last ones in. And so we do all demo, then we do all paint, then we do any kind of like trim work, anything like that, any kind of appliances that need to be updated. And then we bring the flooring people in, and the flooring people actually do all the backsplash stuff too. So they do carpet, tile, and backsplashes. And it all takes about 30 to 45 days. This one, it was exactly 30 days. It takes about 3 days to do our cleaning. So I bring a cleaning lady in, and that's included in their fee as well. So I bring the cleaning lady through. She charges me like $350 a house, no matter what size house. She goes through and does a surface clean. She'll do a deep clean on appliances if they're going to stay, but other than that, she just does a pretty good surface clean, get the construction goo out and all that stuff. Then we have our stager come in, and she'll come in for a pre-meeting actually while we're in the renovation stage, so she can get a feel for what we're doing and kind of the design choices that we've made, so that she knows kind of what type of staging material to bring in. And then we schedule our photographer. So the photographer will come out and do the photographs, excuse me. We always go live on Fridays, always, Friday morning. And in the listing description, it says open house is Saturday and Sunday from this time to that time. Never fails. We have a ton of people, especially, they're beautiful listings. So of course we get a lot of folks that come through. I have only had one take longer than a week to sell, to get it under contract. And that was for other reasons. We'll get into that case study later. So our offer and inspection time period here in the Kansas City market, and I know it's different in different states, we have sort of a default 10-day inspection period. So between the time we get the offer, we may negotiate for a day or two, and then they have 10 days to do their inspections by default. They can shorten or lengthen that, but in this case, it was a total of 12 days. We did have some repairs that we needed to make, some things that we didn't actually account for up front. And I'll get into why that's the case, but we had to do actually a sewer clean out. We had to install a flue cap and clean out the fireplace, which had dead birds in it. No one had used the fireplace in forever. Apparently a gaggle of birds got stuck in there, and it was just bones at that point. It was pretty disgusting. So we had to do those 3 things. And then the appraisal time frame. So between all of that, from the time I actually met the client for the first time, we did all the steps and closed on her house in 90 days. Any questions so far? Nope. Okay. So this is probably where it gets pretty interesting for most people. And you'll get this document. So you're asking, how do we determine how much our vision is going to cost? And this is largely done on your own to get an idea of how much you're going to need to spend and if you need to scale back somewhere. So this cheat sheet is actually from a website called FlipperForce, FlipperForce.com, and has been truly instrumental in helping me get a ballpark figure in place. And then once you're ready to firm things up, you can use your network of contractors to dial it in, but the cheat sheet will at least tell you if it's even feasible. Sometimes, taking out a wall or putting in flooring, and when you actually go and check the prices for flooring today, or if you don't have that kind of setup or contractor that you can just order from in bulk, it might negate some of the things that you want to do if you're working with a smaller budget. So when we're thinking about how we're going to tackle a property, we always first focus on curb appeal. The front of the house is what brings people in. If it looks like crap, nobody's going to want to visit. So curb appeal is always the first thing. Then the very next thing we focus on is a kitchen, followed by the master bedroom and bathroom. And then if there are other value added areas or just things you think should be addressed, like in this case, the carpeting in those the flooring in the 2 bedrooms downstairs, we actually had our cleaning person come in and clean the grout, which made it look brand new and it looked very nice, but I couldn't afford to spend the money on the basement bedrooms. Things like holes in the walls, floppy fans, weird hardware that doesn't match anymore. For instance, in this particular house, we had those golden doorknobs. So we replaced all of those with silver, like a brushed chrome. Doorknobs are relatively inexpensive, but in order to match things, you need to, maybe spend some money in other places. And then this file is included in what you receive after our session today, but I wanted to walk you through it really quick. So let me figure out how to close this. And we'll open it up. So hopefully you can see this. If you can't, please let me know. So this is the file that I use. And basically at the beginning, it walks you through all of the exterior pieces. There's an average rating here. Again, you're going to want to plug in if you've got a contractor that you work with a lot or a couple of contractors, or you've done this enough that you kind of have a better feel for what those pricing pieces are going to look like. You can change these values so that it works for you. But we kind of use these as guideposts here just to give us, based on if we go more higher end versus lower end, if we, need to buy more material than not, whatever the case may be. So exteriors covers roofing, siding, any kind of brick masonry work, exterior painting, decks, porches, doors, windows, carports, garage doors, concrete, landscaping, and fencing. This works really well. As a side note, if you're doing your own fix and flips, this works really well for getting hard money loans. So I've used this actual sheet in the past to give to a potential lender and to get approval for the project. All the interior stuff, including cabinetry, countertops, if you have to buy appliances, faucets, things like that. If you're doing a full bathroom remodel, you can see $2,500 to $10,000. That's a pretty big gap, right? But your $10,000 bathroom is going to be a master suite in probably in my market at least, a $350K plus house, which is kind of our newer construction type houses. Half bathroom remodels, carpeting, tile, hardwood floor, the whole thing. And here you'll see it says labor, $4, material, $2 to $5 a square foot. And then you've got your mechanical systems. So any plumbing, HVAC, electrical. So if we start putting stuff in here, so let's say we've got a 20 square foot area of roofing. We expect labor to be about $300. We're going to do material. So it's already done all the math there. So $6,000 for 20 square feet of roofing just on labor. And then if we were to put in, material. I'll fix this before. So you've got to pick your value, whether or not you're going to use $250 to $400 a square foot. So I'm going to pick $250. I could type today. So it's going to do the math for you and set you up really nicely. Siding, if there's numbers already plugged in here, it makes it a lot easier. So if you're going to do like 30 square feet, it's $240. At the top, it's already rounding it up for you. How did I get 106,000? Hello. So it's rounding it, it's putting it all up here for you so you can see exactly how much your total project is going to be. And then if you need to make adjustments in certain areas, you can do that throughout. But again, this is kind of a really good way to just sort of put some numbers in place to get an idea of what your costs are going to look like. Any questions on this?
So quick question, Jana. with those estimates that you have there, how close do you come to what the actual cost is to your estimates?
This estimate, I'm usually always over.
Okay,
Yep. So I'm estimating high. I like to estimate high because it would just love
right.
it to come in lower. So for me in our area and with the materials that we have access to and whatnot, obviously, if you've got a great contact that can get you wholesale prices, by all means, do that, plug those numbers in here. But this is kind of like a high estimate just to give you that really high ballpark. And frankly, if I'm looking at doing a real master bathroom suite, you know, with a bedroom and a kitchen and exterior, I already know I'm already at 25K just with that. And that's praying we don't come across any issues. So this kind of helps really kind of get that high number so you know where you're at and where you need to pull back if you need to.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So you guys will get that. And then, like I said, I will actually take this sheet and I will go to my contractors, and I've got 3 different crews that I work with now. One of them does a really great job, but is slow as hell, takes forever, perfectionist, like, which, you know, on my higher end homes, not a bad thing. But it's that time value proposition, right? And so I will take these, my cheat sheets to them and say, here's what I need to do. Here's kind of, you know, what I'm looking for in terms of feel and effect in the home. Can you play with these numbers, figure out where we can button things up or shave things off or whatever it might look like, you know, given the specific contractor that I'm going to want to work with. They're used to it now, so they actually want to sit down and hear what I want to do. They want to look at the pictures. They want to get my measurements. They really dig into it, which I think is really cool. But it's taken a little bit to develop that relationship. It's definitely a lot easier than just sending it out into the ether and getting something back. And we'll talk about how to find and cultivate contractors tomorrow. So this is probably by far the most time-consuming and nerve-wracking part of the entire process, and it is actually just managing the process. So I'm going to walk you through sort of 5 areas related to managing this process, and some tools I've got for you to use as well here. Keep in mind that everything I share with you will need to be vetted by your broker or your attorney or your broker's attorney, and it may require some modifications to comply with your state laws and your broker requirements. So just keep that in mind as you're looking through this. So our first thing that we do is when we go to that first meeting to walk through the house and get a feel for what needs to be done, I need to understand that I'm interviewing them as much as they're interviewing me. And so I'm not afraid to ask questions. We're going to pour ourselves into their homes and into them. And frankly, I mean, there's a lot of risk involved with doing this. There's a lot of ways we can mitigate that risk, and we'll walk through that. But in the beginning, there's a little bit of they're wondering whether or not you're serious, if you're really going to do the work for them and pay for it, or if you're just going to, you know, some fly-by-night contract person that's coming in and doing some, you know, whatever. So it helps to really have that difficult conversation up front. Do it when you're doing the walkthrough. You don't want to waste your time. If they're like, yeah, I don't believe you, you're not going to be doing anything, you know, that exciting, I'll show them pictures and say, here's the things that we've done in the past, you know, so you're kind of, I hate to say this, you're watching for red flags, because again, I go back to in our normal, typical real estate transaction process on a listing in this market, you're probably managing a client and their expectations and their transaction for 30 to 60 days, maybe. With this process, you're going to be best buddies for about 120 days. So you really have to feel like you can trust them and that they can trust you, that you're building that rapport, that you're paying attention for some key red flags. And so here's some red flags that I typically watch out for. Don't hold it against me, but hoarding. If there's a significant hoarding issue, that's just not something I can take on. The clean out process is usually between $5,000 and $10,000 to get it all cleaned out. And usually there's some other issues along with it. that make it very, very expensive and very difficult. What I do in those situations is I will refer them to a local organization that actually helps. It's sort of a home health care type of thing. They'll come in and they'll help clean out the property, help them go through their stuff, make sure the house is up to snuff and it's clean and sanitary and things like that. I can't do that. If there are big ticket items like broken furnaces, the AC condenser was stolen, if there's things like that, or things that just show a lack of regular maintenance, there's a high likelihood that you're going to find way more things in that house behind those walls and things you can't currently see right now. They're just going to plummet your budget and kind of make it not fun, basically. So I ask things like, how long have you lived there? Do you have a loan on the property? If so, how much do you owe? What made you reach out to me? What are you really interested in? What about this process got you excited enough to reach out to me? I'll always walk through some of my vision and see if they show any interest or like what I have to say. I try really hard not to, and I think we all do this naturally anyway when we're going on listing appointments. We want to be helpful. We don't want to seem like we're tearing down their beautiful home. So I always throw out things like, I love what you did with, the trim work in this room. I love, things that I think I'm going to keep. I love that you did this, that, or the other. So you always want to, kind of have a little bit of both. Here's the things that I want to do. Here are the things that I love that already are here. Here's how we can make it work within the, the entire renovation process and move forward that way. So if you decide to move forward together, will they be staying in the house during the renovation, especially right now? All of the renovations I've done this year, the homeowners lived in the house actively, and in most cases worked in the house as well. So it was a constant fun of shifting people around to get what we need done. Also keep in mind, some contractors will not work under those conditions. They will not work with a house where people are living in. When do they need or want to move? Is there anything they think should be done or would like to see done? Some inkling of what they had wanted to do when they bought the place, but never got to. Those are really helpful. Those are easy wins a lot of times. And you can do a lot of this while you're filling out the walkthrough worksheet. So if you can take pictures and they'll let you, which usually isn't an issue, definitely do so. These will become your before pictures. So if they'll let you take them and you feel like you can get some good, good angles that you're going to use later as well, definitely take those. Plus, it's a lot easier to refer back to those pictures when you sit down with your cheat sheet to kind of walk through what you want to do. You're like, oh gosh, I can't remember. Was that tile flooring, or was it, some kind of plank or whatever? It's helpful to have the photos to be able to walk through that. So let me show you this worksheet. And I just print this out. So this isn't like, I don't have it on a tablet. It's not anything fancy. I print it out. I take a pen. It's on a clipboard. And I put, who I'm talking to, the address, how much they owe on the home, if there are any liens, if they need to net a certain number, like if they're going to buy a new property, do they need to have that money for a down payment? Are they trying to pay off credit cards or debt or whatever? Is there an amount that they really need to net? And that also helps me figure out if this is going to be a good fit or not. You have to have enough room for a renovation in their budget. How many bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, all that jazz. Home style, super important. A 2-story is actually going to cost more on a renovation than a reverse or a 1.5 story. So definitely want to know about that. The year it was built, what does it currently have in terms of stove and water heater? But this is kind of where things get messy. So I actually write on there, do I think I want to replace the cabinets? Do I think I want to replace the uppers and the lowers, one or the other? Do I want to refinish them? Does it need new hardware? Are we going to replace the countertops? If so, are we going to use like a stone or a butcher block, or do we need to use laminate for the area? If we're going to replace the kitchen sink, what kind? If we're going to do a backsplash, if we need to do any lighting, flooring, and it kind of walks through those main areas, right? My favorite is almost every house I go into has popcorn ceilings, and I always take them off. It's the easiest thing to get rid of and the cheapest thing to get rid of. And then you put up knockdown and you scrape. It's super cheap to do. And it makes a huge difference in what people think when they walk into a house, as you know. any kind of landscaping that we're going to do, if there's new house numbers that are needed, if we need to do porch or deck repairs. One of the case studies we'll walk through tomorrow, actually, the entire deck on the back of the house was swaying when we were walking on it. And I'm not a small girl, but I'm not like huge either. And just walking around, just taking this step out and one step further, I felt the whole thing shift. So we ended up having to replace the deck on that one. So things like that, you got to know when you're going into it. If you have an idea of what the budget needs to be based on your conversation as you're walking through, this isn't anything I share with the seller at all. This is my notes as I'm walking through, just so I don't forget stuff. I'll write on there if I think we're maxed out at 10K or we're maxed out at 15K, or we can go up to 50, the sky's the limit, whatever it is. If I have some inkling, I'll put it on there. And then how much time I think it's going to take based on what I'm looking at. And then when I want to go live. So that's a conversation we have. When do you want to put your house on the market? When do you actually want it to go live? So we walk through that. Is there any questions about this? Okay. So we've got about 13 minutes left and we haven't even gotten to the best part. No. So when I explain the renovation process to a seller, I took that kind of timeline that we walked through on Park Avenue and I sort of expanded it to talk through all the different things we do at these different stages. So after we have that meeting and estimation, we get estimates from the contractors. We start selecting materials and fixtures just to get a list together of the items you're going to use. Start preparing agreements. You do title search and liens, which we'll get into here shortly. Pre-approval to buy if needed, and we do ARV and as-is CMAs as well. Once we have the listing signed and we've done the demo, we're kind of in that post-demo phase. We get on the contractor schedule. If we haven't gotten the dumpster, we get that, during that 7 to 10 day time frame as well. We start purchasing materials. I will not purchase any materials until we have a listing agreement signed and a renovation agreement signed. And that's the next thing, 2 more slides that we'll go through. I have to have those 2 things before I will ever order materials. And I don't get to those 2 things unless I've already done a title search and a lien search. And we'll get to why that's important. You probably already know, but we'll get there. In our MLS, we have to enter the listing within 24 hours. So the minute they sign it, I've got a 24-hour clock to get that sucker in there. So we'll put that in. And then setting expectations with contractors. And this is super important. I've had a lot of really crappy experiences with contractors, and I will say the best way to set yourself up for success, set your seller up for success, is to make sure that they understand that they are working for you. You're paying the bill. There's multiple ways to pay this bill, but in all intents and purposes, you are hiring this person, you are paying the bill. They need to come to you if they run into any issues, if they think they have a better way of doing something, if they think they can save money, so on and so forth. They need to come to you with that, not the homeowner, which makes it really difficult because, again, they're all working from home right now. So there's communication that's happening. This became a huge problem on that case study that I shared with you on Park Avenue. The contractor was constantly saying he didn't like the selection that I made, that he could find something nicer, and the homeowner was getting frustrated with him because we had already agreed on what these renovations were going to look like and what we were going to spend in certain areas. And so he kind of really made that very difficult for a minute. And then we had a little come to Jesus meeting, and then we were good. But now I address that up front. I address that when I'm hiring them. It's part of my agreement with the contractor that they are to come to me with anything and everything, not the homeowners. During the renovation process, which is usually 30 to 45 days, sometimes can extend up to 60 days, I do every other day pop-ins. So I come into the project every other day. I would just want to check on things. Now that I've had a few and I've got several going at the same time, and I'm running a brokerage and I have my own, sales and transactions and things like that, I actually hired a project manager to manage that daily or every other day pop in. And then we also do a weekly budget and timeline check. And I do that with the contractor and with the homeowner. So I talk to the contractor first. Where are we on budget? How are we doing on time? Is there any ahas we need to account for? any uh-ohs that we need to account for. Hopefully I'm hearing about that before then, but it gives us an opportunity to kind of do a mini retrospective on that week and anything that might have changed or any timelines we need to address. If we have to reset expectations with the seller, if we found something in the walls that we need to take care of, we can't not take care of it. And we need to push out our timeline. We do that with the seller as well, so we can reset, or the owner, so that we can do a reset there. We also do punch list walkthroughs and final walkthroughs. So as we're getting near the end of the renovation process, I have the list of the renovations that we agreed we were going to do. I will walk through. Now that I have a project manager, they're doing the daily stuff. This is when I walk in and I go through everything I wanted done. Are we on track? Is there anything funky? Is there any last minute stuff we need to get done? Make sure we're still good on the contractor schedule. And then we do our final walkthrough before we do our staging, our cleaning, staging, and prep. So I will schedule staging, like I said before, during the renovation cycle, because I want the stager, and she likes it too, to come in and actually see what we're doing and get a feel for the space, so she knows what items to pull for me. Because the worst, I've had it happen before, where I wait till the last minute to bring them in till it's all done. And then they've already rented out, that sofa that would have worked perfectly in here, or this throw or that rug or whatever it is. So I get them in early so they can start pulling stuff for me right away. Schedule photographer, we prep the seller for go live, what's going to happen, how this is going to play out, your normal typical listing process. We schedule and plan the open houses. We start prepping our marketing materials. So that's one thing that I spend quite a bit of time on through this process, is actually sort of teasing, and you guys have probably seen them. I will tease the renovations. Here's where we're at this stage. Check out where we were to where we are. Look at this cool new light fixture. So we're trying to generate some buzz during the renovation, which will help drive people to come through the open house. And maybe they're not the ones that are going to buy. We've had one of the renovations we've done is right down the street from a small university. And so we had a ton of people coming through that were parents, that their kids were going to be starting at this university. They wanted to buy an investment property. This is right down the street. So we get a lot of traffic through just by teasing through our marketing materials. And then the big thing, which we haven't talked a ton about yet, but we'll get to, is disclose, disclose, disclose. So I mentioned earlier that if you open a wall and you find something, and you have to take care of it. You can't cover it up and leave it there. As licensed real estate agents and as realtors and as brokers, we're responsible, and we're doing this renovation, and we're going to have to disclose everything that we found on the backside. So if there's something there and it needs to be addressed, it needs to be addressed. Don't walk away from it. And then I mentioned we go live on Friday. We have open houses Saturday and Sunday, offers, inspections, appraisal, normal process. Any questions about that?
So far, have you had anything that you opened up walls and you had some type of situation to where it just totally busted your budget?
I add a 10% contingency into my budgets, so that just in case. Most things that we've found have sort of fallen in that contingency, so I don't usually have any budget busting ahas. But we did have, on one of the case studies we'll go through tomorrow, we did have where we were replacing the tile in the bathroom, in the main floor bathroom. And there had been a leak from the tub previously that no one had addressed. And once we actually pulled up, like, we knew there was probably a leak there. We could tell by the grout was kind of missing. When we actually pulled the tile up, the entire subfloor had mold in it. The insulation between the floors had mold on it. And this top part of the ceiling, which you couldn't see from the basement bedroom that it was under, also had mold on it. So we ended up having to tear out the ceiling in that basement bedroom, getting that out. We had to put new ceiling up, obviously mud and tape and texture and paint and all of that, new insulation, new subfloor, and then we could lay the floor. So that one wasn't a budget buster just because we build in those contingencies, but it could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot worse, actually. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So this is kind of a big one, setting expectations while you're going through this process, and you're going to do this all the time. It's going to feel nauseating how many times you're going to come back to certain things that they need to hear multiple times. One of the things that a funny one-ish that I set out at the beginning is, this isn't love it or list it. I'm not here to try to talk you into staying in your home. This is just list it. So you may love what the renovations we've done and want to stay. We do have an option for that, and I'll show you that on our next one when we get into our agreements. But ideally they're listing it and moving it out. That's kind of the whole reason why we're doing this, is to get more listings on the market. So ideally they want to move. Can they move out while they're doing the renovation? That's a really important one. What are they most concerned about? And if it's bottom line, then we're always going to talk about the bottom line. If it's always about time, then we're going to focus on schedule. We're going to cut some things back so we make sure that we're hitting our timeline. If it's they just want it to look badass, then we're going to make it look badass. But it's always having that conversation, and things change. I mean, when you're looking at a 90 to 120 day process, you know, where they may have been super lax 60 days ago, now they're freaking out and they need to get out of this house. You need to sit down and reset the expectations again. This is why we went down the path that we did. Remember, you're going to make X amount of dollars per extra day that you wouldn't have made if we just would have sold it. There's a reason why I understand. We're going to do our best to meet your, whatever it is. But you constantly have to do that. Are they willing to let you design the renovation, or do they need to have a say? And this is super important. This is one of those red flags that you need to know about up front. I'm all for getting the homeowner involved in what we're doing because it's their house. We're tearing up their house and we're making it new again. We want them to be involved. But I have had a situation where I've had a homeowner who, you know, didn't like the tile. It was Park Avenue. Didn't like the tile that we picked out. Didn't think it was going to work. Didn't like the subway tile. Everybody's doing subway tile. I'm like, yeah, but it sells. And in your neighborhood, it's selling a lot. You know, you constantly have to come back with research, but you're going to repeatedly hit that wall if you don't set those expectations up front. Would love to have your feedback. I want to walk you through everything that we're doing. I'm going to show you all the fixtures we're going to put in. I'm going to show you all the design we're going to do. I'd love to have your buy-in, but also understand that I know what sells in this neighborhood, and there are going to be some things you're going to look at me and go, really? And I'm going to say, yes, because X, Y, and Z. So just be prepared to have that conversation. If you're doing it because you've always wanted to do it, or you like how it looks, or you think it's a cool thing, that's fine. Just say that. But if you can back it up with, this is what's selling in your neighborhood, that is a key thing to talk about and to keep hitting home. If they're going to buy on the backside with the proceeds from this sale, then they need to talk to a lender. You need to know that they can buy. And then, do they think or know about any liens on their home? And that brings us to our program agreement. So by now you're probably wondering, how the hell am I going to protect myself throughout this process? And we have an agreement for that, and you'll receive a copy of this in your files, but I'll say it again. This needs to be reviewed by your broker and your legal counsel before you use it. You've got to do a title search. That's the first thing that needs to be done. You have to know, are they the owners? Are there more owners? Is it in a trust? Are there 18 people on title? Is there some funky cloud on the title? Is there anything weird going on there? Normally liens will show up there, but sometimes they don't, especially if they're tax liens on personal, on sales tax. If they have a business or other taxes, it won't show up. So you have to go check the State Department of Revenue to make sure that there aren't any liens on the property. This happens in that first beginning 21 days. You've got to do this early. No reason to get involved if you can't make them any money in this process. I'll go back to, again, can they buy? Get that pre-approval letter up front. I always provide net sheets and comparative market analysis for as-is state and their expected ARV state. So they see brass tacks. Here's what you're going to get, and here's what you're going to get for if you do the renovation. And then this is in addition to your listing agreements. This is specifically in a renovation agreement. And again, disclose, disclose, disclose. So let me pull this up. We're at time. So if anybody needs to go, just know I'll keep going, and you'll get a replay of this in all the files as well. So this is the renovation program agreement that I use. So it has my LLCs in it, just FYI. And it basically says that if there's any conflict between the listing agreement and this agreement, this agreement will win in the beginning. It also talks about scope. We're basically calling out what property that we are going to renovate, and that we are taking financial responsibility and management of the renovations for this project. This one's a big one for me because I've had challenges with, if I think that ARV is going to be X, but we see a change in the market in the middle of it, and now our ARV isn't what we expected, they have to understand that going in, that, I know what the market looks like today, and I can somewhat project what it's going to do in the next 30 to 60 days, but I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell what's going to happen 6 months from now. And in this particular case, there was a challenge where we did not have the same conditions. So I put this in here up front. At no time do we ensure, promise, or imply a level of certainty that these renovations will increase the market value. And they understand that market value is driven by an appraiser and the buyers. We'll do our best, but we can't make any promises. And then I'll put the scope of the renovation there, so it's all listed out what we're going to do. Owner understands that I'm going to subcontract the services to local tradespeople to complete these renovations. I'll do everything in my power to confirm that they are licensed and insured. They may bring people with them that aren't covered. I can't police everyone. I have to trust the people that I'm working with. So they have to understand that they're not always potentially going to be licensed or insured. And that they're going to provide access to the property to complete the renovations for the listing. I also kind of put a box around our engagement on a renovation. It's no more than 180 days from start to finish. And that start date starts with their listing agreement being signed. And that's the exclusive period that I am in relationship with this client. That's the starting point. And then I put, here's when I think we're going to start, and here's when I think we're going to end, just as a, plan up front. When we talk about pricing, there are two different ways we go about pricing. So the first way is just a flat fee. So if I've had one renovation where they wanted to see all of the invoices, all of the, material costs, all the labor costs, all of it, which is fine. I have no issues with that at all. But they're also going to pay a 10% management fee for that as well. So it's the cost of the renovation plus a 10% management fee plus the listing. So if in your market, your listings are 5% or 6% or 8%, whatever they are, it's plus that. So if you're not going to take commission on the listing and just use the management fee, that it's totally up to your discretion how you want to work it with that homeowner. But in my agreements, that's how I do it. It's the fee plus the renovation estimate plus the management fee plus commission. Or if it's going to be a smaller project and it's not going to be $25,000 or more, whatever, I'll do just a flat commission. So I'll say an amount consistent with 8% of the total gross sales price at closing, in addition to the 3% or 2% or 1.5%, whatever I put in the listing agreement. Here's the big thing that I learned that hopefully will pay for this class. FHA, VA, and USDA loans have a maximum commission percentage. There is a maximum commission percentage set by government-backed loans, and it is 8%. So anything labeled as commission cannot be any more than a combined final total of 8% of the gross sales price. So you're thinking, how the hell am I going to make that happen? Like, what if we start out doing a percentage, but it's more like 14%, which has happened. It's more like 14% in the end. How do I recoup my costs? Just keep in mind that your listing agreement's maximum is 8%. on FHA, USDA, and VA. Conventional doesn't matter. So the buyer's lender will let you know if you've crossed over that. But what I like to do is there's a little clause in here that says, we all understand that government-backed loans are maxed out at 8% commission for the total gross sales price. In the event that the buyer's using one of these loan programs, the owner understands that I'm going to convert the percentage indicated above into a flat fee that's going to be invoiced to the title company from my LLC for payment at the close of escrow. And that the owner's going to receive that invoice. They're going to be able to look at it, and I have them sign it so that when it goes to title, there's no question. So then you kind of have a split arrangement where some of it is on an invoice and some of it is from your listing agreement. However you want to work that out, but I did not know that there was a maximum, and I got bit in the butt by that and had to make a pretty big change, a scary change, but we've done it. And now we know how to utilize that process with the system. And they do that, just to be clear, it's not a bad thing. I totally understand. They don't want a seller selling a home to a government-backed buyer and paying what they call gross level of commission, not gross sales price, a gross disgusting level of commission. It's very strange. Any questions about
real
that?
Quick. Yeah, real quick. So when you say that where you have for the percent of the total gross, and if you have to, go above that 8% and you end up invoicing them to be paid at closing, you said you use your LLC. Are you using Good Hands or your brokerage?
It's full of hands. Yeah. So I'm
Full
using,
of hands.
Yep. Because in this situation, we'll talk about the brokerage strategy on Sunday, but in this situation, I'm I'm my team leader. It's my LLC that is contracting with contractors to perform these services. So it's my LLC, not the brokerage, that's paying for this. So I invoice as my LLC.
Okay.
Anything else?
I have a question.
Yes,
do you
ma'am.
have the contractors sign agreements with you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. They can't sue me if they hurt themselves. They can't sue my sellers if they hurt themselves. They have to have their own insurance. Like, oh yeah, we've got an agreement we have them sign too. So we'll walk through that one tomorrow too.
Awesome. Okay.
This is a really, in addition to how we, get paid and how pricing works and all of that, this one's really, really important. The disclosure requirements, as licensed individuals, we are held to a higher standard of disclosure in all things. And in this case in particular, if you do come across something like, for instance, a basement has water in it, the seller says the basement never had water in it. Clearly it did have water in it. It had water in it when you were doing a renovation on it. You have to disclose that, even if you didn't do anything with that basement. Like you weren't renovating that basement, but you saw water in there, you now have to disclose a material defect. Like it's not even an option. They have to understand that going in. Yes, we're going to be opening walls, removing flooring. We may find some stuff that we have to disclose. That Park Avenue property, there were 18 dead birds in that fireplace that we had to disclose. There were a bunch of dead birds in the fire. That seems silly, but literally anything that is discovered during the process of your engagement on this listing, you have to disclose it, and they have to know that up front. You're not going to hide anything. They can't ask you to hide anything. You will not hide anything. It's a very big deal. This is how you keep your butt out of licensed jail. Okay, disclose everything. I even go so far as on my MLS showing agent remarks, our sort of private agent to agent remarks, I'll put on there disclosure that the listing agent was also the renovating party. So they know that I know quite a bit about this property up front. If they ask me any questions, I'm going to be 100% straight and answer them. Then we have a section on arbitration agreement, which is pretty typical and standard arbitration agreement. Basically says, you're not going to sue me. I'm not going to sue you. We're going to try to work this out. And this is how we're going to work it out through an arbitration process. And then there's a pretty large section of this that's a hold harmless agreement, which basically says that the owner is going to indemnify you and hold you harmless if anything happens on the property, someone gets hurt, if they're, wrongful death, loss, property damage, whatever it is, that they're holding you harmless from that. And there's a lot of legalese there that you're welcome to read through later. The second biggest question I usually get, the first one being, how do I get paid? The second one is, what do I do if they decide halfway through they don't want to use me or work with me anymore? I make their get out of contract free card, which is you can cancel this agreement and our listing agreement at any time. But do know that if you cancel, whatever costs I have incurred, including materials I may have pre-purchased for a later phase of the renovation, any prepaid labor that I might have had to do, dumpsters, whatever it is, including the cost of permits and plans, because those are usually upfront early on in the process costs if you're going to be doing anything relatively big. All of those become due in full at the point of cancellation, and that the seller must understand that if it's not paid within 3 calendar days, that I'm going to file a lien on their house. And so I've never had to do that, thank goodness, because we've had this conversation. Things come up, things happen, people get irritated. If they're not willing to talk to you about it and they just want you to walk away, that's fine. It's kind of like a cash for keys type of situation. I'll walk away, but I have to be paid for what I've spent so far. Now I'm going to lose out on the listing. I'm going to lose out on all that other stuff, but that's not the issue. I just want to make sure that I'm whole, essentially. And then I also leave them with a list. So if we came across anything during that process, I leave them with a list of here are all the things that we found during the renovation that we did that you should disclose to future potential sellers, listing agents, contractors, etc. And that's what we do, essentially. So you'll get a copy of this too. Any other questions on this, the agreement? Okay. Go through it. If you do have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to me. I can, certainly put you in touch with the attorneys that I work with to develop this. And, if there's a network that they work within, I can put you in touch with someone in your area too. Happy to do that. Okay. So any final questions? No? Okay. Thank you for taking an hour and 15 minutes out of your day today to spend with me and walk through this. If you do think of anything tonight or tomorrow, feel free to send me a message on Facebook. My email is janajeffrey@gmail.com. You can text me, whatever you need. I'm happy to answer any questions. And then we'll see you tomorrow. Same Zoom link that you had today. For tomorrow, and we'll talk through sort of, how to find good contractors and how to work with them and good agreements to have with them and so on tomorrow. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night.